Here's the thing about weekends like this. They always are tough to see because you're in like a fog, and then all of a sudden you come out of the fog and it turns out, oh, there's a mushroom cloud. Where'd that come from? Oh, a great big bomb in college football just went off. We got carnage everywhere. It's chaos left and right. I never would have seen it coming. Well, here's the thing about it. We try and see it. We try and see around the corner. But it's difficult. Like Penn State plays Illinois this weekend. The line on the game's 14.5. It's Drew Allar's first real road test as the starting quarterback at Penn State. It's an 11 a.m. local kick. Illinois is totally off everyone's radar because they lost to Kansas last Friday night, meaning they got a little extra rest for this one. Of course, they're in wounded animal mode, one of the most important metrics on this show. Penn State, according to my research from producer Jesse, they did let that West Virginia quarterback run on them a little bit. And Luke Altmaier can do the same for Illinois. So what'd this thing go to? About 19 overtimes the last time they played? What a memory. I mean, what a memory. They didn't play last year. So Penn State at Illinois. I think the upset meter, a 6 on a 1 to 10 scale. So in other words, keep your eye on it. Next up, this is just disgusting. I can smell this off the piece of paper. South Alabama is only a 7.5-point underdog at Oklahoma State. So that's with home field baked in. South Alabama, a 7.5-point dog. It's been bet down from 9. I looked at the model. The model slightly leans Oklahoma State, and I said, no, thank you. We bet Oklahoma State last week. We won. We are not on the Cowboys this week. Do you know they've played 3 quarterbacks this year? Like, Oklahoma State has 3 quarterbacks who have thrown 15 or more passes. It's week 3. That's wild. That's actually pretty crazy. They got to figure it out. Do you want to be figuring it out against South Alabama? I know most of you think that South Alabama is a nothing program and they got a clip art mascot logo. This is a good team. It's a very good team. And that coaching staff's going to be getting attention on a broad scale from a lot of more major programs. I say the same thing about the Troy coaching staff. I got some really good coaching staffs in Alabama at the G5 level. Trent Dilfer's the head coach at UAB. So there's all kind of entertaining things happening down there. I'm going to put this upset alert at like an 8. I'm very nervous about it. And this is half of my Big 12 championship game prediction, Oklahoma State. It's not a conference game, but if they drop it to the Jags of South Alabama, it would not go very far in giving me comfort as they enter conference play. Next up, this to me is one that is far enough off the radar to where I'm just putting the bright blinking red light emojis all over it. Washington is laying 17 on the road at Michigan State. What's Michigan State been in the news for this week? Their head coach is suspended pending a sexual harassment investigation. No one's talking about football. And also, everyone's just of the opinion the team's terrible. Quarterback, best wide receiver transferred out. They're bad. No one's paying attention to Noah Kemp. No one even knows what he's been doing at the quarterback position. No one knows that Michigan State is plus 74 in point differential. So far through 2 games, that's their best mark since 1931. And whomst amongst us could forget that 31 Spartan squad? I got to hit my buddy Jim Dononough and ask him if he was on that team. So I'm looking at this. And Washington's sitting there in the top 10, and they're going across the country, and they're laying 17, and I am nervous because sometimes it's called the Ewing effect. Producer Jesse was talking to me about it today. A lot of times when you lose star players and you know about it all week, it doesn't happen on a Friday, there's this galvanization that happens in the locker room, and a bunch of folks play at 105%, and collectively that more than makes up for the loss. Well, when you lose a head coach, that not only happens with your player roster, sometimes it happens with your coaching staff too. And that's not even to mention, there could just be some folks up there that didn't like Mel Tucker. Now, I'm speaking purely hypothetically here. I don't know any of that to be true. But sometimes there just happens to be resentment for whoever is out or got suspended in the locker room. And there's an added motivation to play at your best because you want to show everyone, without this person, we're better. Oh, and by the way, you want to defend home field in any scenario. So I'm nervous about that one. That's like a 7.5, maybe even a 7.75 on the upset alert scale. Colorado State goes to Colorado. Yeah, that's happening. So now what we have is we've got Colorado in a potential letdown look-ahead spot. They go to Oregon next week. And you would think this was going to be a sleepy little game that only people in Colorado cared about. And then all of a sudden, this happened.
They are tired of it. And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So, you know, they're not going to like us no matter what we say or do. It doesn't matter, okay? So let's go up there and play.
Once again, why would you want to talk about us when we don't talk about nobody? All we do is go out here, work our butts off, and do our job on Saturday. But when they give us ammunition, they done messed around and made it what? It was just going to be a good game. They done messed around and made it personal. It was going to be a great test, a battle of Colorado, but they done messed around and made it personal.
Guys, they messed around and they done made it personal. What you just heard, if you're listening on podcast, was Colorado State head coach Jay Norvell. Breaking news, Jay Norvell is the head coach of Colorado State. And you heard Deion Sanders wearing a hat and wearing shades while talking to us. You know I think this stuff is stupid. However, I also think it's thoroughly entertaining. And so I will wade into those waters as well if anyone gives me an opportunity to. College game day is at Boulder this week. At Boulder, in Boulder. And I saw ticket prices for this game. The line's in the 23.5 range. It's insane what's happening out there. Utterly insane. Now, we're talking about upset potential here. Colorado State somehow is coming off a bye. Again, I say somehow because it's only week 3. And secondly, yes, it's been a double dose of really high emotion, high leverage situations for Colorado weeks 1 and 2. They beat TCU, they beat Nebraska, they got Oregon and Southern Cal on deck. So in normal world college football, this would be a letdown, look ahead, trap, whatever you want to call it, spot, sandwich spot. Nothing about Colorado's normal. And I don't think they're thinking like a typical championship contender team is thinking. I still think they view all these games as equal because they weren't expected to do anything. It's different. Like they look at this thing and it's just the next challenge. What I'm trying to say is I don't think they get let down. I don't think they suffer to this point from the same potential pitfalls that other teams do. I just think they're wired a little different. This year's version. That's not to say in the future they won't revert back to the kind of semi-normal form of college football. I think they're going to run it up on Colorado State. That's what I think. So I've got this at like a 2. I don't think there's much of a threat of an upset here. I'm the same person who laid 20 with TCU in week 1 and had them victimize me. So I wouldn't be taking my opinion on Colorado games to the bank just yet. There's money to be made elsewhere. But conference play is on deck. Conference play beckons. 2 conference games right here. LSU is laying 9.5 at Mississippi State. Obviously, I think the upset alert meter is very high on this one because we took Mississippi State and the points. It's a Ramen Noodle Express best bet for us. It's pretty simple for me. I got Mississippi State power rated in my top 25. So I'm not going to watch them in good conscience be laying 9.5 at home and not jump on it. And I also watched the Arizona game last week, and they were horrific, which, as you know, the theory on this show is if you're bad, I don't expect you to try and replicate whatever your ill-fated game plan was. I expect you to go another direction. But if they do attempt to go the same direction, Mississippi State can run the ball on LSU, at least if statistical profiles hold up from so far this year. Now, while Mississippi State may be elderly, or as you might call them, experienced, defensively, it's not the fastest defense in the world. So LSU is going to have plays they can make to probably a little bit higher scoring game than the total indicates. I'm not taking the over. I'm just saying that's my feel on it. I've already got a side on this one. I am taking Mississippi State plus the points. I didn't pick the outright upset, but obviously if I think it's going to be in the single digits, I think there's a shot at it. And also that South Carolina at Georgia game, this game's already broken down on the channel. We've already got an individual video on it. It's all about pressure. Talked about it with Spencer Rattler. It's all about Georgia's opportunity to either explode or be exposed. Either could happen here. And if you're exposed, it doesn't have to be a loss. Like, I don't think the upset potential is particularly high. It's a 4-touchdown spread. So I don't think the upset potential is particularly high. But the thing about it is, if you beat South Carolina 26-20, there probably still a lot of things that Kirby Smart's having to talk about in that post-game press conference that don't feel real well and don't make you have the warm fuzzies in your belly. And then you're saying to yourself, man, if Texas would have come in here, they would have beaten us just like they beat Alabama. Only thing saving us is a softer schedule right now. Or Georgia's up 30-3 at the half. And that pass rush gets to Spencer Rattler. And those wide receivers do break out and block really well on the perimeter. And Carson Beck has himself an afternoon. And that crowd does what Kirby Smart's asked him to do. Literally, either one can happen and would not surprise me. So my upset meter's not especially off the charts on this one. It bears watching, to me, even in a win, for what Georgia could look like. Many different versions of Georgia we could see. Also, I think Florida's just going to beat Tennessee. I picked Florida outright to beat them. So that's the upset I'm on this weekend. I spoke my piece on this the other night. I just think Tennessee's going to probably be seen by America, most of America, for the first time. And you're going to expect Tennessee to be throwing the ball all over the place, and that is not their offense. It is not. They've got 2 pass plays of over 20 yards so far this year. They have more rushing yards than passing yards. Some of that's because they've been playing in blowout games. I will grant you that. I'm telling you, even in a tight one-possession game, I think that's their offensive profile. That's their offensive identity right now. The difference is Tennessee can get after you a whole lot more defensively themselves. And so I'm the one who stood on the sideline in Salt Lake City and watched Florida struggle to even get past the line of scrimmage on the ground. Are they really going to be able to put up 125, 130, much less 170, 180 on the ground against Tennessee? And if they can't, is Graham Mertz about to win me a ball game through the air? Somehow I think it's going to happen. So that upset meter's all the way at a 9, 9.5 for me. Upsets they're good for the soul unless you're pulling for the favorite.